Hello and welcome back to the Arcane Forge. My name's Josh, and today I wanted to post a little review and also talk about one of the mechanics that is essential to D&D. Recently I've been receiving a few emails from various different people, various different companies who have asked me to review some of their products, some of their ideas, Kickstarters, stuff like that. And I'm definitely not opposed to the idea, but I like to be able to give an honest review. And one of the people who contacted me recently, via Facebook actually, were a bunch of guys called Dirty Little Goblins. Specifically Adam from Dirty Little Goblins, so thanks for sending the email through. And Dirty Little Goblins have come up with a really cool app. Now I need to specify before I continue that they're not sponsoring this video, they've not paid me anything, and they're cool with me giving them an absolutely unbiased and truthful review, which I really appreciate. It just so happens that the app that they have designed is specifically helpful for something that I have struggled with personally when I've been playing D&D, and also so have my group. So the app is for iPhone and Android and just about everything else, and it has a super long name. It's called DLG Inventory 5E for D&D. And although that's a bit of a mouthful, I have to say the app is really helpful and it's really nicely designed. What it deals with is the idea of encumbrance, carrying capacity, and that sort of thing in D&D. And I've had huge problems with this in the past. One of the longest campaigns that I was a part of was first edition, or a first edition sort of simulator, in which D&D was kind of far more like a fantasy simulator. It's kind of supposed to feel a little bit more like real life. You're dealing far more with the nitty-gritty, the intricacies of living in a fantasy world, more so than something like 4th edition, where you're supposed to feel like you're playing a computer game and you're epic heroes and things like that. Some things are omitted, whereas in 1st edition everything is covered because they want to make you get the most out of living in a fantasy world, was the idea of encumbrance. So I had played a lot of computer games and I had loved a lot of those, things like Skyrim, Fallout, they all have encumbrance. But when you're sitting around a table in front of friends and you suddenly get an extra sword and you have to add up your weight and see what that means for your character, whether you can carry any more, keep track of everything, every nugget of gold, every gem, everything has a carrying weight, it suddenly becomes like a spreadsheet. It can feel really boring and laborious to maintain. It can feel like accounting, I want to be slaying dragons and fighting goblins, and sure, I want a little bit of realism in there. I want to experience a story, and I want to have to manage certain aspects of my character's lifestyle. I don't want to be able to just pack everything inside a Santa's sack and just carrying an entire castle out of the dungeon, but at the same time, I don't really want to be doing boring stuff when I'm trying to enjoy myself and have fun in a fantasy world. Now that's not the same for everybody. A lot of people really enjoy this kind of stuff, and I happen to not really be one of them. However, encumbrance and carrying capacity do add an absolute ton of really interesting challenges to the game. For example, if you come across a Red Dragon's gold hoard, let's say you're a little hobbit burglar in the middle of Smaug's dungeon under the Dwarven Mountain, and there's just huge amounts of gold and you want to take it all home. One really interesting challenge is now, how do you get all of this gold back? Because you can only carry a few handfuls. Do you stuff your pockets full and try and escape being weighted down by all of this stuff? But then even if you manage to escape carrying twice as much as you normally would be able to, you still got to deal with the fact that there's so much treasure left there. Do you send caravans and parties to then go and pick this stuff up? Do you learn a teleportation spell? Tensor's floating disk was pretty much invented for this problem. Do you make a little plate that can carry a load of treasure independent of you? It poses a really cool challenge of greed versus reality for your players. So it's something that should be included in games. However, the concept of this made me so bored when I was playing 1st edition, and I was, a little bit younger, I was a little bit not interested in this kind of stuff, that it quickly found me getting burnt out with this kind of game. Maths is not my strong suit, and I didn't want to have a huge part of it in my D&D. I just wanted to experience a story and have an adventure. So by completely omitting the encumbrance rules in my first time DMing, I had basically removed some really interesting challenges from the game, and I always felt really kind of bad about that. Now in 5e, the rules are, according to the player's handbook, intentionally simple. And fair dues, they are simplified, but there's still a lot to keep in your head, especially if you're tallying up every single coin of gold that you have in your backpack, you know? It's a lot to manage. Does the belt I'm wearing cost a few extra pounds, you know? You have to think about every single thing in your inventory. Does ammunition have a weight to it? In which case, how much can I carry? And basically the rules are as follows. Your carrying capacity as a character is your strength score, not your modifier, your strength score, times 15 in pounds. So you can lift, drag, and push twice as much as your carrying capacity. Then, as most creatures are medium, that's kind of the rules that they're built for, but if you're larger than medium, you basically double this number, and if you're smaller than medium, you halve this number, and so on. It kind of scales a bit like that. So yeah, that's pretty simple, and you can work that out in character creation, how much you can actually carry, and things like that. But Encumbrance is the fun kind of puzzle challenge bit for DMs that you can impose on players, and it basically simulates the idea if you're carrying too much, you begin to slow down. And it's not like Skyrim style, once you reach a certain number you just can't move. But this is more like, yeah, if you're carrying your friend on your back, you've got way too much to carry, so you're gonna take more labored steps, more intentioned steps, but you won't be sprinting through the dungeon, okay? So the rules state that your speed drops by 10 feet if you're carrying 5 times your strength score, and it reduces by 20 feet if you're carrying 10 times your strength score. And you also have disadvantage on things like attack rolls and ability checks, or saving throws that involve dexterity, strength, and constitution, just because you're carrying so much extra stuff. You're heavily encumbered at this point. So that's fine. That can be really cool and really challenging, a really interesting thing to put in front of your players that they might not think about. Maybe there's, you know, a huge amount of treasure that they need to take out of the dungeon. So much treasure, you know, way more than they can carry, and they have to figure out a way to do it. Or maybe you have one really cool piece of treasure, you know, an amazing sword that was built for a giant, and it weighs their entire carrying capacity times 10, you know? It becomes another way to put a puzzle into the game, which is great. But calculating all of that is a massive hassle, and that is where this app comes in and makes everything super, super easy. Okay, so let's take a look at the app. So, in the little corner here, you can see the DLG inventory. That's the app we're going to be using. I'm just going to load it up here. And this is a character that I've already got loaded up. So let's start a new one from scratch. So I'm going to use one that I really like. Let's go for one of the characters that I had recently. Let's call him Wyatt Reese, who is a sort of cowboy type character who is absolutely useless, but he was very charming. So let's give Wyatt some gear. I'm going to tap on Wyatt here, and what we get to do now is to give him all of his gear, give him all of his gold and everything like that. And you can see at the top that we have current weight, encumbered, and heavily encumbered. So it's going to give us different values for all of that stuff based on his weight and his strength. So let's enter Wyatt's strength, which if I recall was not particularly great, but just so we can add a few things. Let's say that he has 13 strength, above average, but not stellar. And so that automatically calculates what encumbered and heavily encumbered looks like for us in feet. And it also helpfully tells us the penalties there as well. So you can see it says speed drops by 10 feet for encumbered, and for heavily encumbered it drops by 20 feet, and gives you everything that that entails. But if you're not using those, you can just simply use the calculation up here to determine your carrying capacity, okay? So let's give Wyatt some gold. Gold was a big thing for Wyatt, so let's see if we can encumber him with a bit of gold. So we have all the various different types of coinage down here, and I'm going to give Wyatt, let's say Wyatt has 50 gold. Okay. Now, obviously, if I go to the shops and I buy a couple of beers and I buy some arrows for Wyatt, he was an archer, I can obviously remove however much those cost by tapping just here or by changing the number, you see. Or if I pickpocket someone, I can grab a few extra coins here and there. Additionally, if we find a massive treasure haul and we get to divide that amongst the party, then I can always go and say, let's say we all get 68 gold each, because it's weird and we have to work it out, and I'm terrible at math, so I'm gonna have difficulty eventually adding all these numbers up, so I can just press plus to the add and remove icon here, and that's exactly how much gold Wyatt would have. Similarly, if I get knocked over and, you know, random number, let's say 92 gold, it falls out of my pocket, I can just happily press the little minus here. That's exactly how much gold falls out of Wyatt's pocket. But let's say, for the sake of argument, we're starting low. We'll give him his 50 gold. We can obviously increase or decrease that as necessary. So we've got Wyatt's 50 gold, but what does that mean for him? Gold has an actual physical weight, so we're going to have to find out what that means. We don't have to do any calculations whatsoever because it has his current weight as a result of the amount of gold that he has there, and we are not even remotely encumbered by that. That's a decent amount of stuff, but Wyatt is carrying a lot of gear. He's wearing a lot of clothes, he's got armor and weapons and so on and so forth, so we need to figure that out too. So let's go up on the top right hand corner here, and you can see that we have the option of store mode or not. So store mode is if we're buying from a store. You can see that, let's say adventuring gear, we'll add an abacus here, and that cost me 2 gold. Okay, but we're going to leave Wyatt with his treasure hoard, and we can add some more items for him. Now I'm going to try and remember what Wyatt had exactly, and we can find out what exactly he can deal with. So let's say adventuring gear, he's already bought an abacus. We can go down here and find out. He's going to have arrows because obviously he is an archer. So let's add 20 arrows. There we go. He's probably got a backpack as well, and he will have a bedroll to sleep in. He used to write in a lot of books, so let's say he's got a couple of books. He'll have a candle so we can write those at night. He'll have some common clothes. He'll definitely have some ink and a pen to write in those books of his, and a quiver to store some of his arrows. Adding more equipment here, what else is he going to have? So he's going to have a couple of torches for sure. So he's got 5 torches and a tinderbox. We'll go down here to weapons. We'll give him a couple of daggers because he was a rogue. No, he wasn't, he was a ranger. No, he was a rogue. And I'm going to give him his short bow. It's the main weapon that he used, even though he was still terrible with it. He gave it a go. Armor wise, he had a trench coat, which I believe was leather armor. So there we go. And I'm going to systematically go through now and pick up the rest of the items that Wyatt would have had. But we have absolutely everything to choose from. We have adventuring gear, we have weapons, all of the weapons that you can have from the original books. We've got all the armor as well. We've got tools, packs, musical instruments, everything. Everything in the books is in here, including magic items. These guys have put in every magic item. I'm not going to go through the book to verify that they've put everything in here, but there are so many. The list just keeps going on and on and on and on and on, all with their appropriate weights. So this was a huge amount of effort, my goodness. So if you find something absolutely spectacular, and your DM tells you that it has a name, you can add it from the magic item list. However, if... Oh, I accidentally put a +2 item in there. I think Wyatt would quite like that, although I don't think he deserves it. You can always add custom items here. I took the liberty of putting the cryptex of Loki in there because that seems like something that Wyatt would have. But if you wanted to create your own magic item, go down here, add what type of thing it is. Let's say a weapon. We'll say it's the sword of the cactus. Who knows what the sword of the cactus does? Oh wait, we have to write that in. But I don't have time for that now. We're gonna maybe figure that out. Then we can add the appropriate weight of this item. Let's say, looking back up here, that a longsword is the appropriate weight. Pounds. Who knows? Who knows how much this weighs? We can say what it costs, what damage it does. Say 1d8 damage. Probably going to do piercing. And then we can add its weapon type and appropriate modifiers here and there. I'm going to click save. But we could have bought all of that stuff. So there you go. But now that we've added all this stuff, we've added all of his equipment, we can go back and we can see where he's at. He's not encumbered yet. He's not heavily encumbered at all, which is great. And I've got his entire inventory here, and I have his inventory value down at the bottom there. I'm just going to remove this weapon because I don't think he would have that. And that's great. So we know exactly what all of his stuff weighs, whether he's heavily encumbered or not, which thankfully he's not right now, but I'm not far off Maybe I'll have to hire a pack mule or something like that to deal with all of these items that I've got if I go too far above everything. And I even have my current inventory value down at the bottom there, which is really nice. So that tells me everything I need to know, and I can keep adding to it and removing things. And again, no disagreements, no arguments. This is just the flat recorded values. But I mean, this is a really nicely designed app. This looks absolutely lovely. They've clearly worked very hard to make this look as appealing as it is useful. Some great graphic design going on. Very easy to read. Great color choices, which you know is important for me. So I'm going to be having all of my players using this stuff as often as I can. So thank you so much, Adam, for sending me through your app. I'm absolutely going to have all of my players using this regularly. I mean, even though I'm currently doing a sci-fi campaign as opposed to a traditional fantasy, I can add all the items that I want to with all the custom weights and things like that I need to. So this is a huge lifesaver and solves any arguments. There's no discussion. There's no, oh no, my character can carry X, Y, and Z extra. No, this is just literally, it's plainly written out in front of you. There can be no disagreements about what it says, and you know, it's all accurate. So feel free to become as inventive as you like with puzzles involving carrying capacity and weight and pushing and shoving and all this kind of stuff, because there's an app that's totally free and it makes it all easy. If you want to find out more about the Dirty Little Goblins team, then you can just go to their website, dirtylittlegoblins.com, and they have a Facebook page as well, which is Facebook.com/Dirty Little Goblins. And I hope you guys find this useful, because I really have. If you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, please make sure to leave a little like down below. Maybe favorite this video and share it with someone who you think might also struggle with these kind of carrying capacity issues. Maybe your party need to download this app and give it a go, see if it makes life easier for you all. So share it with your party. If you enjoy the videos I make and want to see more, make sure to click the little subscribe button. Everything you do like that massively helps the channel to grow. So thank you so much for your support. If you want to help improve the types of videos that I can make by making a financial contribution to the channel, I have a Patreon page, and backers of all sorts get various different rewards, including things like prints of my Monster Mondays. If you want to keep up to date with me and everything that I'm doing at the moment, I also have a Facebook, a Twitter, and an Instagram. And again, if you're looking for a commission of your character or something else from your game world, make sure to check out my website as well, where there are details of all my commissions, and also whether or not my commissions are open or closed. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you later.